This is the case of 16-year-old Enrique Rios and how he was set up by his friend. Enrique was born on January 2nd, 2000 and lived in Esparto, California with his mother Lola, his stepfather, and his younger sister. His family says that Enrique loved his friends, he loved his family, and he just loved life. Now, of course, no one is perfect, and Enrique did run into some trouble in his teenage years. He ended up getting into a fight at school, and this led to him being on probation. However, as part of his probation, the family found a program that allowed him to go to school in the morning and then go to work in the afternoon. At this job, he would learn trade skills, and he was getting paid $800 every other week, and Enrique absolutely loved this job. His life was turning around, and he was so excited for what the future would hold. But unfortunately, that would all change on Sunday, October 16th, 2016. That Sunday, the Rios family was getting ready for bed. At around 9 p.m., Enrique walked into his mother's room and told her goodnight. Lola says that Enrique was wearing black shorts and a white t-shirt, which is what he would typically wear to bed. Everyone went to sleep, and the next morning on Monday, October 17th, she woke up and realized that her son was gone. Lola started calling her son, but all of the calls went straight to voicemail. However, after a few hours, she did receive a text message from her son. In this message, Enrique said that he was on his way to school and that he had accidentally fallen asleep at a friend's house. Lola asked him, okay, what about your uniform? Because he had left the uniform at her house. Enrique said that the friend he was staying with was also part of the program and that he had an extra uniform for him to borrow. Now, Lola says that when she saw that text message from Enrique, she immediately knew that something was wrong. So, a couple of hours later, she called the school and asked if Enrique had shown up, and they said that he had never shown up to class. She continued calling and texting her son and just wanted to speak to him on the phone and see if everything was okay. Eventually, in the afternoon, she received one final text message from her son. This message said that he needed to go away and that he was under too much pressure and just needed some space. Lola read that message and immediately knew that this wasn't her son. Someone else had sent her this message. So she immediately called police and reported her son as missing. However, the police didn't really take her seriously. They classified Enrique as a runaway and they didn't really do anything about it. It wasn't until 3 weeks later that police would finally take his case seriously. This was when Enrique's friend, 17-year-old Elijah Moore, also went missing. Elijah was last seen on Friday, November 4th, 2016, just 3 weeks after Enrique's disappearance and just a day after his 17th birthday. As soon as Lola found out about Elijah's disappearance, she immediately knew that this was connected to her son's case. And police agreed with her. They thought it was strange that these two students and co-workers disappeared within weeks of each other. Both families began asking the public to come forward with any information about the teens' whereabouts. And someone did. Someone submitted an anonymous tip letting the parents know that both teens had been kidnapped, that they needed to look into Jesus Campos and Shondell Shannon. Right before his disappearance, Elijah was seen on camera cashing in a check on Main Street in Woodland. And with this, police started to put together a timeline for what happened. Okay, go to part 2. This is part 2 on the case of 16-year-old Enrique Rios and how he was set up by his friend. So police started looking into Shondell Shannon and into Jesus Campos, and that's when they realized that more people were involved in this. And 2 years later, on June 7th, 2018, police released the names of the 4 men involved in the case. They charged then 27-year-old David Frost, his 21-year-old brother Jonathan Frost, 21-year-old Shondell Shannon, and 18-year-old Jesus Campos with kidnapping and murder charges in connection with the teen's disappearance. The number one question everyone had was, what happened? Where are Elijah and Enrique? Well, Jonathan came forward and told police that in exchange for a plea agreement, he would tell them everything, and he would even testify against his own brother David. The prosecution accepted his deal and Jonathan began to talk. He says that this all started back in October of 2016. This is when 17-year-old Elijah Moore met with David Frost at a KFC parking lot and robbed him of 3 ounces of this. This made David very angry, so he called up his brother Jonathan and told him about the robbery and about how he wanted to get revenge. He said that he wanted to find Elijah and kill him. So David called up the other members of the group and they sat down and started to make a plan. Shondell and Jesus started hitting up Elijah's friends to see if any of them would know where he was. And that's when Shondell got the idea to message Enrique, lure him out, and have him give up Elijah's whereabouts. Now Enrique literally had nothing to do with this. He wasn't there during the robbery, he wasn't a part of this friend group, like he literally had no connection. The only connection he had was that he was friends with Elijah. That was it. So on Sunday, October 16th, 2016, Shondell messages Enrique and invites him out to a party. However, there was no party. Instead, they lured him out to Knight's Landing. There, at the secluded location, David began to interrogate Enrique and told him to lure Elijah out. However, Enrique refused. He told David that he didn't want to be a part of this and that he didn't want to set his friend up. This made David angry, and instead of letting Enrique go, he decided to shoot him in the head. All because he wouldn't give up his friend. After this, the foursome continued on with their life. They still wanted to get revenge on Elijah, and 3 weeks later, they spotted Elijah leaving a barbershop on Main Street. They kidnapped him, they put him inside the trunk of a car, and they took him out to Knight's Landing. At first, David told Elijah that he wasn't going to die, that he was just going to punish him by driving him far out and making him walk home by himself. However, when they arrived to Knight's Landing, they took Elijah out of the car and put him inside a ditch. Then, they all took turns beating him with sticks and branches. Then, David shot him in the back of the head. After they buried his body, they went to Denny's and had some food. And they paid for their food at Denny's with Elijah's money. They literally did all of this over 3 ounces and $300. Jesus and Jonathan tried to help the police locate the teens' bodies, but unfortunately to this day, Enrique and Elijah's bodies have never been found. David, Jesus, and Chandel received life in prison without the possibility of parole. As for Jonathan, he will most likely be serving only 15 years to life. If you know where their bodies are buried, please contact the number on the screen.